Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, friends and colleagues from across the world. Thank you for joining us today for our first Podium Hour session with two special guests. This is actually a special edition weekend, Dr. Emily Letron and Dr. Maxine Feinberg. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much
Great
for
to be
inviting me.
here.
So what an honor to have a former president of the ADA here with us that has been in this space for over 30 years, fighting for dentists, fighting for the profession. It's a very honorable event today to have you with us. We are very glad. And I will be briefly introducing our host of today. We are very fond of our female colleagues that help move the profession forward. And as you guys know, our female colleagues have vastly increased in the profession in our
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, friends.
And we have been able to grow together, and their presence is very appreciated. So today's session, we have two leaders of industry with us who are female professionals, female colleagues, and they will discuss with you guys how they were able to achieve that over the years by starting at the very top and working their way up to the very starting at the bottom and working their way up to the very top. And it took many years to get there and much effort, and maybe we can learn something from that. But before we do that, I will quickly introduce our host, Dr. Emily Letron. He is not only entrepreneur, a coach to many doctors, a multi-practice owner. You've seen her, author, publisher, and on it goes. Her resume is quite long, and but most importantly, she's the best mom in the world, as she likes to say. Thank you for taking the time to host our wonderful speaker today, Dr. Letron.
You're very welcome. It's really my honor.
And it's been a pleasure working with you for the many years I've known you. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy a wonderful show. Dr. Maxine Feinberg has a lot to share with you. And please don't hesitate to ask the questions at the end. She'll be glad to answer them for you. And here we go. Dr. Letron, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Good morning, Dr. Feinberg, to all of our friends all over the world, our friends and colleagues. And it is my great honor to be interviewing Dr. Maxine Feinberg today. And I've had the pleasure to meet her at an event a couple of years back. And then I have the pleasure to invite her to come to speak at my own event, Action to Win, in San Diego. And then I have the honor to interview her when I wrote my book about women empowerment. She is always in the forefront, leading our profession, not just the women, but the whole profession. And we've had some candid talk about how to make changes and help everybody become a leader by becoming involved in organized dentistry and do their own part. So I like to actually read Dr. Feinberg's resume, bio. It's excuse me. It's quite long, but there's a point to it. So here we go. Dr. Maxine Feinberg is a Cranford, New Jersey periodontist. She was the third woman to serve as president of the American Dental Association. Dr. Feinberg was the fourth district trustee of the ADA Board of Trustees. It was the first woman to serve as president of the New Jersey Dental Association. She served as a delegate in both the ADA and the New Jersey Dental Association House of Delegates. She was appointed to the New Jersey State Board of Dentistry, where she served for 10 years, one term as president. She presently serves as the examiner for the Commission of Dental Competency Assessment. While she was on the ADA board, she was the liaison to the Council on Access, Prevention, and Interprofessional Relations, the Commission on Dental Accreditation, Council on Dental Benefits Program. She chaired the ADA Task Force on Student Debt. She served for 8 years as a delegate to the FDI Work Congress, where she had an opportunity to meet and learn from women dentists all over the world. Recently, Dr. Feinberg was nominated to serve as a commissioner on CODA to represent the American Association of Dental Boards. She is an attending at the Jersey Shore Meridian Hospital Residency Program. She initiated the New Jersey Give Kids a Smile campaign in 2002 and 2003 and was chair of the ADA Council on Members Insurance and Retirement Plans in 2007 and 2008. She was a recipient of the New Jersey Dental Association Distinguished Service Award and Give Kids a Smile Pioneer Award. Dr. Feinberg is a fellow in the American College of Dentists, the International College of Dentists, and the Pierre Fauchard Academy. She was the 2017 recipient of the American Association of Women Dentists Lucy Hobbs Taylor Award, its highest honor. Presently, she sits on the board of the New Jersey Donated Dental Service Dental Lifeline Network and the Gillette Hayden Memorial Foundation of the AAWD. As a graduate of New York University and the New York University College of Dentistry, Dr. Feinberg has maintained a private periodontal practice for the last 30 years in the Union County, New Jersey. She resides in Westfield, New Jersey with her husband, John, and has two daughters, Haley, 28, and Rebecca, 24. Dr. Feinberg, thank you for joining us. And as we chatted a little bit before we go on the show, I was trying to look at the bio and, like we were saying, consolidate it, but it was very hard to consolidate because everything that you do is unique. It was for different things. For example, DDS, the donated dental service, I'm part of that. And I've been part of that for many, many years. I don't remember, I have that plaque on my wall with all the years, stickers on it. And that is giving back to the community, right? And then you're attending at the hospital residency program. That's being involved as a teacher to mentor the residents. You're the past president of the ADA, that's being a leader. So it was really hard to consolidate because usually I do try to consolidate somebody's bio, but it just speaks to the volume of work that you do. And I'm sure the intensity and the commitment and obviously your passion. So I like to start with asking you, who inspired you to be involved in being like at this point as in organized dentistry, but just in general as a leader? Who inspired you to be a leader?
Well, to be honest, I think I was raised in an environment where I was fortunate to have, parents and older sibling and cousins who really encouraged me at a very young age to voice my opinion and to get involved. So I tell people that one of my uncles was the first feminist I ever knew because he told me at a very young age that I could do anything I wanted. So when you're raised in that environment, it was such a positive environment to grow up in that, even when I was in school, I would run for, class president or student council vice president. And I was very much involved in programs, volunteerism. So that's how I started. And then when I got to dental school, it was a very funny thing. I had been involved in college and, I'd been our student senator at NYU undergraduate. And then when I got to dental school, I thought, I'm going to give that up. I don't have time for it. I'm just going to go to dental school, do my thing. And our class was faced our freshman year with some really unpleasant circumstances. And the person who had initially run for class president didn't address them. And I stood up at a meeting with the dean and basically took him to task on the issues. And the next thing I knew, I was class president come January. And which was actually sort of funny because, as I said, I had no intention of getting involved. But once again, I couldn't help myself. The class needed someone to lead where this person was not doing that. And then I get called up to the front of the class during my first physiology lecture that trimester. And the chairman said to me, do you know that you're the first woman in, 130 years or something like that to be president of the class? And I was like, no, I had no idea. It wasn't my intention to be the first woman. It just, I just, I tell people, it has never been my intention to be the first, but because of the circumstances and the fact that I have been the first, I've used that as a platform to help bring other women up with me and encourage them to get involved.
Yes, I think that's wonderful. I think it's great to have somebody who inspire you. And then sometimes, there are challenges that arise, right? And you step up and you answer to the challenge because
Exactly.
not everybody's decide, okay, I'm gonna be the class president because we have a situation here. And who do you think or what do you think gave you that confidence? I know it was sort of accidental that you become the president, but what gave you that confidence?
Again, I was very fortunate. I went to an all-girls public high school, and we had been in a coeducational middle school, but when we got to high school, I think that it really did help to mold me, because in an all-girls high school, you either rise up and take control and take charge of whether it be the newspaper, which I was involved in and would have been the editor, the yearbook, the debating forum. You learn that women can be leaders because there wasn't that social pressure to let the boys lead. So I think that was really something that helped me a lot. I learned how to be a leader because of necessity, and it didn't have the some of the social pressures that you'd have in a coeducational institution. So having learned that I could be a leader, I just continued. I just thought, well, I've been president before of various groups. I can lead. And so it took the fear out of the equation because I learned I could lead. So I was very fortunate.
Yeah, I think a lot of us we're fortunate when we have the support, and it sounds like when you were growing up, you got that support from the family. You have the family discussing topics that would, enrich you and give you that confidence that you can do things. When you actually go out and practice, so in New Jersey, what what inspire you to say, you know what, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do this in my community because I think my colleagues may need help. What inspired you to do that?
I was very fortunate. I started my career working in Queens, New York with one of my perio professors who was very, very involved in organized dentistry. His name was Milton Martin, and he was such an inspiration to me and encouraged me to get involved and helped lead me early on in my career. So Milt, I felt, was instrumental in pushing me into the path of becoming involved in organized dentistry, so that by the time I moved to New Jersey to open my own practice, I'd already been involved. And at the time I started my practice was when things were changing because of the AIDS epidemic, and it's had a profound impact on all of our practices. And I really felt that I wanted my say in what was going on. And so I immediately jumped in and, volunteered and voiced my opinion. It wasn't always the most popular opinion, but I felt, the things that I had to say were important for all of us. And I wanted to have my voice. So that's really, part of it was out of necessity because I felt this this topic was going to impact the practice of dentistry for future generations as well. And we needed to have sound policy and to be able to provide our members with the best science available. And so that really was part of my motivation. And I was very lucky because once again, I found mentors along the way that were willing to coach me and give me advice, and they're lifelong friends today, and I just feel very blessed that I was able to find people who were willing to help me improve myself and improve my ability to participate in organized dentistry. So that's the first thing I tell everybody. Rule number one, don't hesitate to ask someone for help and to mentor you, because people are more than willing and able to do so. And that has been my experience for the last 40 years.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'm sure after rule number one, there's going to be a couple more rules.
There are plenty.
So I invite you to take the floor and share with us the other rules, the other inspirations. I would love to hear your thoughts about, I guess, how to prepare as a leader, because a lot of time when we have the confidence, it's because we have the knowledge and the training. And I think as young doctors are graduating from school, especially nowadays where there's some limitations about how much they can do in school, whether it's due to the pandemic or not having enough patients in general, how does that affect their confidence? How much can organized dentistry help them? And also, if you're a little bit more seasoned, like me, and you're kind of accomplished with with raising the kids and sending them out to college, what should we do if we want to get involved? So I'm going to give you the floor, and you take it away.
Thank you. I think that one of the most important things to do before you start, and it doesn't matter whether or not it's that you want to be involved in organized dentistry. It could be you want to be involved in your local Kiwanis or Rotary Club, anything. The first thing is buy yourself a copy of the American Institute on Parliamentarians book on parliamentary procedures. It used to be called Sturgis, and read it. I actually keep it on my phone and my iPad because every now and then, something will come up and it's easy to consult with. And the reason this is important is if you're going to participate, you need to feel that you know how the process works. And this book is just a really wonderful resource for everyone who wants to be involved in any type of organization. You don't have to memorize it because you can keep it on your phone or your iPad. But the truth is, it explains why we have parliamentary procedure and why it's so important to the process and to maintain a democratic process in any environment or debate. And so I think it's really important. I think a lot of times people feel that they don't have those skills. It's really easy to teach yourself the skills you need there. And then, you say to yourself, what does it take to be a leader? Some people say leaders are born. Well, and I think that that's true. I think some people are born leaders, but everybody can learn to be a great leader. And so I think we have to ask ourselves, what are we looking for in a great leader? And I think it doesn't matter whether it's organized dentistry, your office, your personal life. I think there are certain skills and traits that great leaders should aspire to have. And I think the first one is so obvious to me, but it's integrity. Integrity is everything. No job, no position, nothing is worth ever compromising your integrity. And the reality is, I think when people realize that you have high ethical standards and beliefs, they're going to feel more comfortable following you. So that to me is number one. never compromise your integrity. Two is you need to be able to communicate. You have to have a vision and know what it is that you'd like to accomplish. And I think it's important that you think about this before you get involved or look to take on a leadership role. You need to be able to communicate what it is that you'd like to accomplish, why. You need to be able to be a good listener. I think that's critical because you need to know what other people want and what are their goals and aspirations and what do they think is important. So I think communication and listening skills are critical. Again, whether it be in organized dentistry or your office even, if you have goals in mind, if you can't communicate them to other people, you're not going to be able to accomplish very much. I think self-awareness is also very important. You have to know how you are being perceived by other people and what you're inadvertently or advertently communicating with those that you come in contact with. So I think being introspective and looking at the way you interact with people is critical to be successful. You have to know who you are, what things set you off. And truthfully, you've got to learn, and it's very difficult, I'll be honest with you. It's very difficult at times, but you need to learn how to modulate your emotions. And I think that it can be very difficult, especially when somebody has done something to really anger you or upset you. You have to be able to take that breath and say, hey, wait a minute, I must maintain a level head and a calm demeanor. So I think that's very important. I also think probably something that I think is so important to me in terms of my well-being and my ability to motivate others is gratitude. How often have you said to someone, thank you? It could be something very small, but I always thank, for example, my staff every day for the things they do. A lot of times I think people feel, well, they're being paid for this, or organized dentistry, it could be the staff. Always think about their contribution and let them know it's appreciated. A simple thank you. Even in your family life, I always thank my husband. I'll ask him, gee, John, can you get me a glass of water? And he'll give it to me. But I always remember to say thank you because I think it's just common courtesy, and it's critical that the people around you know that they are appreciated. Nobody wants to work for a despot. People want to work for someone who is appreciative of what they contribute. So I think that's really important. I think that you also need to have empathy, which sometimes can be very difficult. Somebody has an issue or a problem. I think very often people at the top are very quick to dismiss it, but it's just not a smart thing. You need to really, as I say, listen to people. And when someone is suffering, I feel like I suffer with them. I think that trait, some people are, I think, born with more empathy than others, but I think for those people who are not necessarily naturally empathetic, you need to stop and start listening to other people and try to, in a sense, walk a mile in their shoes because their feelings and what they bring to the table is very important. And you need to be kind. I think it's all part of being the kind of person that people will want to and respect and want to, for lack of a better word, follow. and help accomplish their goals. I think that, there's also, the need to constantly be willing to learn. I'm always reading, and, I read things, like the newspaper to keep up with what's going on in the world. I like reading novels to relax, but there are lots of books and periodicals that you can read to help you improve all of the skills that I've just discussed. One of my favorite books is this teeny little book called Switch, and How to Affect Change When Change is Hard. It's a very easy read. I really recommend everybody listening go to Amazon and get it, because it just tells you that sometimes, rather than trying to move the mountain, you might just want to move a little pile of the dirt to get started, and you might accomplish more that way than attempting massive change that people are not going to buy into or want to help. I think another great book is by Grace Young for women dentists. It's Advice to My Younger Self. There's just a lot of interesting women who tell you the things that they might have done differently now that they're older and have had an opportunity to live life a little bit, and the things they might have done differently. Because I think all of us can learn from that experience. I also think there's a great book. It's one of those quick guides. It's called the Emotional Intelligence Quick Book, because I think emotional intelligence is a good deal of what I've just been discussing. And you want to be able to, understand how to interact with people and what you might be doing that could be done better. So I think that's an excellent book. So I think lifelong learning is really important. And then when it gets into the nitty gritty, when you've moved up to a position, you have to provide vision. You have to be a great role model yourself, and you want to inspire and motivate people. So you need to be attuned to your own person, I think, to be able to do that. And you cannot be afraid to delegate. Delegating is empowering people, whether, again, it be in organized dentistry, your office, your home. Don't be afraid. I am somewhat of a control freak, so this was very hard for me because I like things done a certain way, and I had to learn over the years that you get a lot more accomplished when you work as a group and you're willing to empower others to do things. Whether it be telling your children do their own laundry, or showing them how to cook their own lunch or make their own breakfast. For years, I picked out their clothes every day. And at some point it hit me, I wasn't going to go to college with them. They're going to have to pick out their own clothes. But there are little things you can do in every aspect of your life to empower others and take advantage of that. And then I think time management is, especially when I was younger and I was juggling my practice, my family, and my career, and my participation in organized dentistry. I used my time, from morning till I went to sleep at night. I used my time wisely, and I thought it out, and I planned, and I made time for everything. It's very doable. So what I would tell you, in terms of, how to get involved in, let's say, organized dentistry, the first thing, once again, is find mentor. Find mentors. There may be somebody who has certain skills that you think you can learn from. Ask them. People are glad to help. But it can't hurt to ask many people, because different people bring different things to the table. And if you think there's a skill that someone else has that you'd like to improve on, ask people. I've never known anybody to say no to help. 2, no job is too small. I tell people I was the oral cancer screening chairperson for 9 years in my component dental society. Then they asked me to be the secretary. I was the secretary for 5 years. They said, be careful, if you do a job too well, you might not ever get over that job. And I actually love that job. I learned so much, and I became a trustee. Everything you do, you will learn something from that job. And no job is below you. There is no such thing. Anything you do will make you feel better and will help you as a person. 2, do not be afraid to speak up. If you have an opinion, be sure to voice your opinion. But my advice is to know your material going in, because the one thing that helped me and continues to help me is if I'm asked to do something, I spend a lot of time researching that topic, and I become an expert if I can on that issue, so that people will respect you. Very often when you shoot from the hip and you're not informed, you may find that you wind up shooting yourself in the foot instead, because your information is invalid. So never be afraid to learn, always ask for help, and again, be a perpetual student, because the day that I figure I've learned everything is the day I retire from everything, because there's no way I can know everything. It's just not possible. So I think being a lifelong learner is a really good motto to have. And Emily, I would love to open this up for discussion. But, again, a few of the other books that I think are worth reading, John Kotter, Kotter, Leading Change. That book has such a wealth of information and is such an inspiring book to read. I think you'd find that very helpful as well. Hi, Emily.
Thank you so much. I got a whole page of notes from what you talked about.
I hope it was worthwhile.
Oh, absolutely. I was writing on the notes when you say, Emily, let's open up for discussion. I think I really appreciate everything that you say, and I want to touch a little bit on one of the points you mentioned, which is self-awareness. I think, especially for a lot of us, let's just say women, right? We've got so many things to do. You say you understand how to modulate your emotions and understand what sets you off, and I, in my personal opinion, dealing with a lot of the female colleagues, sometimes we tend to use the multiple tasks that we're supposed to do as an excuse. I'm having a bad day because my baby is sick, or I'm too busy because I got to do this at home and I have to do this at work, and that's why I don't have the time to participate, let's say, in organized dentistry, or I want to be a leader, but then I have no time, and then people put things off, but because they have a long list of things that they supposed to do, sometimes they're not aware of their potential. They're not aware that they can actually do more in less time if they could prioritize things. And obviously for you, for the lifelong dentistry that you've been in, and being so involved in organized dentistry, can you give us some insights on how to address that?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, there's no law as to when you need to be involved. I started early in my career. But there are people who get involved in the middle of their career, towards the end of their career, when they're retired, and I think that's great. So never think that it's too late to get involved. It isn't. Sometimes people. I was very fortunate. I mean, I have to tell you this. Part of the reason I have been able to be so involved, and I have been able to use my time well, is my husband was truly my partner. So when it came to raising our children, and participating, he was fully engaged and was very helpful, so that I never wanted my children, for example, to feel that they somehow were playing second fiddle to my practice or organized dentistry. I always tell the story that, they'd have to have special snacks. They were assigned certain days for special snacks. Well, my cousin, who never worked, would go to Dunkin' Donuts and buy a dozen donuts. I baked every special snack. I made every single Halloween costume. I can't sew, but being a dentist, I'm a maven with a hot glue gun. So I tell people I was able to do this because my husband and I were partners and we worked together to raise our family. He wanted me to succeed. So that was a great help. But again, I think that, rather than, and one of the things that I think is really important in your practice, things happen that impact your life. But I still to this day am very careful not to bring it to work with me, not to bring it to the office, not to bring it to organized dentistry. Something had happened in my family, and at the end of the day, one of my assistants said, "Gee, I didn't know that, this." I said, "Yeah, because there's no place for this in the office. You have to learn to separate also parts of your life." And I think in doing that, you free up a lot of time. I'm a morning person. I hate when people say I'm not a morning person. Everybody can be a morning person. So I get to my office at least an hour before my first patient. And my first patient can be at, 6:45, or rather 6:45. So I'm there by 6:45. And I use that hour when no one knows that I'm in the office to do my reading, to see what's going on, to catch up. I usually give myself an hour break for lunch, but I use that time wisely also. I use that time to try to call my colleagues who have called me on the phone. I think the cell phone, which can be very dangerous, is also a great asset to you because,
yes.
I will use my time in the car to return calls as well. So I think that you just need to say to yourself, I am capable, I can do this, and plan. It's all about time management. And I don't think we need to, necessarily do in-depth studies on time management. I think that it's looking at your schedule and and the other thing that I think is really important, eliminate those things that are not important. Now, what do I mean by that? In the beginning, I did the books, the payroll, all of those things. I realized somebody else can do the payroll better than I can. It's worth my spending the money. Like now with this PPP loans, all I'm going to have to do is go to my payroll people and they're going to give me a worksheet with all of the numbers. So why would you want to do that if somebody else can do it better? Two, I would not volunteer for things that aren't meaningful to me or my family or my profession. People will say, can you do this? And you have to learn when to say no. No. I mean, go look in the mirror, take a good hard look and learn when to say no, because there are times where you'll be asked to do things that really have no value. And so you have to pick and choose. I brought a cleaning person into my house after, I had a nanny for years helping me with the kids, which was a great help. She was with us for 14 years, but I now have a cleaning lady who comes in and helps clean my house a couple of times a week. These are things I don't have to do. So you'll say, oh, it's expensive, or, well, sometimes you have to invest in yourself and your sound mind and your happiness, and know when to ask for assistance. And that's where delegating comes in as well. If there's a committee, if you're involved in something, don't be afraid to delegate certain tasks, because that actually empowers other people and makes them feel better as well. And it becomes a team approach instead of your approach. So these are my advice. You can get involved at any time you want to, and you can make the time. It's there. And I can also tell you, you will get more back from your participation than you put in. I have been so rewarded by my years of involvement.
Yes, I totally agree with you on prioritizing things and deciding which part to get involved in. In my office, I have this one certificate, and it says something about participating mom in the classroom, and it actually say Mrs. Wynn, which is my husband's last name, which I
That's
never
funny because my married name is Wynn also, but it's spelled Wynne.
right, and it's and but I don't change my last name. They just assume that that's my
Right.
last name because of the kids, and it's sitting there on my kind of wall of fame among all of my other certificates. Right? And recently we had a fire here, the Bobcat fire. So we went to the office. I took the kids and I said, "Okay, we're going to take the server home." Well, we were in the zone, that you may have to evacuate. So, but it was over the weekend. So I said, come to the office, take the server home, and maybe take a couple of things like my diploma. And then we're looking on the wall, and I said, yeah, I want that handwritten certificate, the one that say the participating mom, because it was from my son, kindergarten.
Those are important things.
When I got that, yes, and I still remember driving my staff crazy because every beginning of the year I would give them 3 schedules, because the kids at one point went to 3 different schools: high school,
Oh,
middle school,
boy.
and elementary school, and they would look at me like, okay, so now we're going to go and mess up the schedule because you have to attend to all these things. And I actually never. I interviewed a consulting company one time, and they told me, "Well, you shouldn't take off to go pick up your kids from school. You should just hire somebody to do that." And they gave me a great, I don't know, 20-page proposal, but I just told them, nope, I'm not working with you. It just based on that simple fact, because like you said, when we know what's important to us, and we grateful that we could do certain things because we're a business owner, right? And we know that we could delegate, but we choose not to because it's a task excuse me, that is very close to us, and we practice in alignment with our values. Then it just becomes so much easier to make the decision.
And I'll give you an example. I always volunteered for activities at my children's school. They would ask in the beginning of the year. I had one rule, though. I didn't volunteer in the library to put books away. I didn't do those things. But I always volunteered to be there for the Halloween parade, the holiday party the class trips. I wanted to be there, but I wanted to be there and have FaceTime with not only my children, but the other children. And I thought the other mothers can put the books away in the library, but that wasn't where I was going to spend my time. And again, it was very well thought out because I did want my children and the teachers to know who I was. And so I think that that's part of it. You have to really think about the things that are important. I carpooled for years, to preschool and what have you. So I set my schedule in such a way that I went in later on Mondays. Wednesdays, I would do both of the carpool routes. But I was there because I wanted to be sure that my kids knew that they were as important to me. They were the most important thing to me and a priority in my life.
Yes, and I like what you share, as thinking that no job is too small. I think, especially in this day and age with social media, something small, people can make it real big. Something big, people can make it real small. and sometimes people could be sharing things. Let's say somebody's sharing about their practice, what they do, and then other people think that it's whatever they're doing is not as good. I I was in this one women's group, and one of the moms said, "This is what I'm doing for my staff for Christmas," and it seems like every post after that just is a step up from that one, right? Because people, I think people sometimes feel the need to show off, to brag indirectly, and then there are other people who, because they may not be aware of their potential, or that they are special in their own way, that they feel that it's a small thing to do. Let's say just to take the staff to lunch versus
Right.
doing this whole thing. What are you? What can you advise us about that?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm a big believer in traditions. Whether it be, my children talk about our family traditions, whether it be the way we celebrate certain holidays, um, eating certain foods, doing certain things. And I feel that when I was growing up and the traditions we had helped to ground me as a person. So we've been very, I love celebrations. So for example, in my office, for every single staff member's birthday, I bring in a special lunch. I get them a special card, a special cake. We laugh at and sing happy birthday, and then our Christmas party is always over the top because I love our holiday party. Everybody gets presents. I'll even make things. I believe it or not, I find the time to do crafty things too. So for the last maybe 6 or 7 years, I make them really gaudy, silly Christmas earrings. And so they all have a collection, and they wear them and they love them. I give them each stocking stuffers that are specific to them. And it might seem like a lot of work, but it's well worth it because, again, it goes back to gratitude. If people don't believe that you appreciate them and value them, they're not going to give 100%. But when they know that you do respect them and that you care about them as people, it changes their whole attitude. So, find your traditions, whether it be in your home, your office, and people love that. They just love being part of the feeling of being appreciated. So I tell people, find your traditions. A birthday cake and pizza or sandwiches at lunch doesn't cost a lot of money. But one of my staff people told me something last week, actually, that I found, like I almost started to cry. She said, I need to tell you this. She's been with me 24 years and she's so loyal and she's such a valued asset in my practice. She said, I want you to know if it wasn't for you these 24 years, I wouldn't have had a birthday cake for my birthday every year. And, she said, so you don't realize how much that cake has meant to me every year. So a lot of times you don't even realize that those small gestures really impact another person's life. Something as simple as getting a nice birthday cake in the flavor that they like.
Exactly. That shows that you actually know them, right? And
Right.
not just some random cake. You speak a lot to a personal growth, um, for a leader, right? To have that gratitude, to have that self awareness, to be a learner. What do you feel is the responsibility, in quotes, for our schools, our university? What do you think is the responsibility that maybe they can teach our younger doctors, the D1 to D4, some of these qualities of leadership, or maybe make it mandatory that they may have to rotate through a leadership role. I'm a very big fan of just make everybody do it, right? It's
Well,
going to click with some.
I think what you're saying is so on point. they started introducing practice management into the curriculum after I graduated dental school. But I think more important than practice management is imparting a true understanding of what it means to be an ethical person, an ethical practitioner, and to really incorporate that into the education is critical. Having served on a state board of dentistry, I can tell you that a lot of people who wind up before their state board, it's not because, just because their dentistry is subpar, it's because there have been ethical violations in the patient-doctor relationship. So I think that that's really important. And I think teaching leadership skills helps. So I agree. I think that these are things that should be part of the curriculum and would really help people throughout their careers. I think that, learning clinical skills is absolutely important, but we need to help young people develop into the kind of colleagues that we appreciate and respect. And you can't do that if you don't understand your responsibilities to be a responsible practitioner and a good leader.
What do you think they should call that course? Or
They
how
should
do they
call it-
fit it into this busy curriculum?
It should be called Ethics for the Modern Practitioner. How to lead, how to become a great leader. And I think the subtitle should be Empowerment for Dental Students, because I think very often they get so beaten down during the process, and it's so important for them to finish requirements and get this done and that done, that they forget that there is a human being and a patient that they're responsible for. And, one of the things I tell people is, you get out of dental school, you have a doctorate degree, but the title of doctor is something that you need to earn every day of your career, because with that comes responsibility. With that comes, the need to be the best person and the best dentist that you can be. So I really believe that every day you walk into your office or you walk into whatever work environment you're in, and you have to remind yourself that people are calling you doctor for a reason, and you need to earn that respect.
I think that's a wonderful idea to remind people that respect needs to be earned. I think, I think partly the society just puts so much importance on the title sometimes. And those of us who are in the professions, we know that title came after so many years, right? But whether you have the respect or not, it depends on what you do with the title. It's not just because you have the title, it doesn't automatically earn you the respect. And those of us who are in the profession, we totally understand that. If you were to talk to let me think, 26 years old. I'm trying to think how old you're supposed to be when you graduate from dental school.
I have to, to fix my hair. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. If you talk to a new professional, somebody who have just come out or maybe has been practicing for 1 or 2 years and have seen a little bit of the things that are done in the real world, maybe have seen some shoddy dentistry and have seen some mean bosses and have seen some inconsistencies in the way people do things, what would be, we say 3 advice that you would give to a young professional?
What I would tell a young person is this: the most valuable thing that you will earn in your, have in your life isn't your car, isn't your house, it's not a boat. It's your dental license and your good name. So everything you do every day of the week needs to reflect that, because once you've sullied your good name and put your license at risk, you're putting your profession at, your professional position at risk. So I think that what you need to do is treat every single person you meet like they're a family member, and really make your clinical decisions based on what is best for them. I tell people, you will do very well as a practitioner if people honestly know that you care about their well-being, and that this is just not, a $20,000 case or a $10,000 case. If everybody becomes a case to you and you stop seeing people in the most human terms, you're not going to succeed. Patients are not stupid. They perceive when
they
a
see right
person
through.
truly cares about them. So start thinking in terms of what is in the best interest of my patient. And I can assure you, you will be very successful if you do it that way. Not all practice management courses give you good advice. When all you're doing is looking at the bottom line and not looking at your professional obligations, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And you need to protect yourself and your license. If you're an employee and they ask you to do something you think is unethical, because remember in the beginning I said integrity is everything. If you lose your integrity, well, it's all over. So don't take that step down the slippery slope.
So those are the 3 advice. Has it been 3?
Yep. Well, treat people like they're family. Make sure to maintain your integrity.
Okay.
And make sure that you do always, every day of the week, start off trying to do the best work you can do, and never compromise.
Yeah. I think those are great advice. I think a lot of times a young professional may not think about those things until they are put in hot water.
Right.
And yes, and I was tested very early. As soon as I got out my GPR, I think that I went to a job interview in the evening. The next day they say, okay, tomorrow you start, and I show up the next day and I was the only one.
Right. Let me tell you, I quit more jobs my first year out of my perio training, and during my perio training, and then I have to call my older brother and say, Bob, could you help me out with the rent this month? I was very lucky I had a safety net. But he said, why are you quitting all these jobs? I said, Bob, whether it be that they didn't have proper sterilization, they were asking me to do things that I felt were unethical. I wouldn't stay. No amount of money or even my rent was going to drive me to do something that I would have trouble sleeping at night with. And you will find the right job, so just be careful. You need to protect your good name. It's really an important thing, because once people know that you're not ethical, believe me, your colleagues will know. You don't want that reputation.
Yes, and it's funny you mentioned about you can sleep at night, because that's my bottom line rule. If I do this, can I sleep at night?
Absolutely.
Whether I'm helping someone or I'm doing certain things, and of course a lot of time you have to sort of look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this it's a difficult time. Should I do this or not? Do I have a good reason? Because I'm sure everybody have a reason. So for our friends and colleagues listening, it doesn't matter what country they're in, where they want to get involved with organized dentistry or become a leader in their town, in their city. How do you recommend? What is step number 1?
Step number 1 is go to a meeting. Step number 1 is join.
Join.
And
okay.
What bothers me is when I hear people say they can't afford to join. You can't afford not to join, because you're losing such valuable information when you are not part of organized dentistry. Whether it be minor changes in rules and regulations, whether it be what to do during a pandemic, you need to be a member so you get the most up-to-date, valid information. Everything you read or hear on the internet or on Facebook is not necessarily good information. But I can assure you that in organized dentistry, they're going to try to give you the most up-to-date, valid information to help you be the best you can be. So join. They'll come up with payment plans. There are plenty of ways that they will make it so that you can be a member. 2, you need to support the profession. So the best way to do that is to be a member. 2, go to a meeting. If you are not comfortable going on your own, call your state organization and they'll put you in touch with somebody at the local level that will go with you. So don't be afraid to go, and introduce yourself. Talk to people. If you're a general dentist, you work with a specialist, call the specialist. They'll usually be glad to take you to the meeting. If you're a specialist, ask a general dentist to take you to the meeting. But go to the meeting and then find out who the leadership is and ask if there's anything you can do to volunteer. They will be so glad to have you.
Yes, and that just go back to what you said, to find mentor, to find support, and know that no job is too small, because it's your contribution to the project, and you always, like you also mentioned, you always get out multifold than what you put in. So
Absolutely.
yes, it's been such a great interview, and thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you serving the profession for so many years, and I'm sure you will continue to serve for many more years. It's an honor to know you and to have you join us on this podcast. So
Thank you,
I thank
Emily.
you. Yes.
Well, God willing, I will continue to be active as long as I feel that my participation is helping the cause. And, as you noticed, one of the things I'm on is the New Jersey Donated Dental Service. For those of you who practice here in the U.S., if you're not a DDS volunteer, please volunteer. Once again, helping people in need of dental care has been something I have loved for the last 30 years. And I have once again gotten more out of treating those people than the dollar amount of the dentistry I've contributed. So thanks for giving me that opportunity, Emily.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you have a great rest of your day. And thank you
You
to our
too.
friends. Yes, thank you. And thank you
Thanks
to our
for
friends and
participating.
colleagues for joining us. Have
Thanks.
a great weekend.
You too.
Yes.